Hey there students, Professor Walters here, and today I want to answer a question, and that is, Professor Walters, how do professors feel when they bump into their students outside of class? Well, there's a lot of different ways professors kind of feel about this. Like for me, I'm super happy when I see my students. I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey, and like we have that like vibe thing going. Yeah, I'm happy to see them out there. Like a chit chat a little bit. Hey, what are you doing here? Because I'm in here in Galway and I've traveled a lot and I'll bump into my students all over the world. So it's a really cool thing to see. It's like, hey, how are you? What are you doing here? I mean, I've been walking in Seattle. One of my old students bumps up, it's like, hey, Professor Walters. But hey, what's up, Chris? You know, it's like one of those things you just love doing. So there's the happiness when we see them outside in class. It's like, and it's always funny when you see the students see us, they're like, oh my gosh, the professors don't just live on campus. No, we get out, people. Now, the second feeling professors get when they see their students, outside of class is weird. Now, when I say weird, it's more like this. It's kind of like when the professor recognizes the student and says hi, but then the student ghosts them back. Yeah, this happens to me, sadly, so often that I had to remember this one actually first before the happy one, is when I'll see a student, because I have like 1,200 a year, right? And I'll see a student, even when I'm traveling, I'll be like, hey, and I'll be like, I'll wave, and they kind of look at me and they kind of ghost me as they go by. And I'm like, oh, that was weird. I thought I knew them. I thought we were friends. I thought they liked my class because I know they're my student. And then 2 weeks later in class, like, oh yeah, hey professor, I saw you when you were on your summer break. Like I bumped into some students, we were in Columbia, Columbia the country, and some of my students came up and said hi. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great, the happiness. But if I would have saw them and I saw them, I thought they were my students, but they didn't say anything at first. I was like, hey, and they didn't say anything, then they realized. But there's that weird feeling there, right? So you have that. So don't ghost your professors if they say hi. Don't feel bad. Just tap them on the shoulder. Hey, professor, I took your class, because sometimes they don't remember. So you might say, hey, I took your class in 20 years ago or something. So do be cool that way. So that's kind of a nice thing. Now, the third feeling professors have when they meet their students is awkward. And the awkward is more when it's an awkward situation. A lot of times it's when professors bump into students in weird spots. For example, sometimes my students have been known to go out and have a good time, and I'm happy for them. But when I bump into them when they do that, it's a little awkward when they're drunk out of their mind and they come and baking me on the forehead to say, hey, Professor Walters, come drink with us. And I'm like, this is kind of awkward. And the look on the other students there were with her, I love you, Agnes, you know that. But they're all like, what the hell just happened? We're all in this awkward state because, yeah, this is a weird spot. Okay, bye. We're going to move on here. No, I did not go out drinking with them because that was just too awkward, right? You have that one. Now, another feeling you might see professors have is more the ambivalent. This is when the professors don't really care. They're just walking by. You kind of see each other. That's the one I don't really like, but that is how some professors are. They're just in their own world, just going. So there is those things. And then there's one that I like to call the letdown. And this is the one where, you see your students, they're your students, you're hoping they say hi and they don't say anything until after you go by, and then you hear them talk about you after you go by. So I was doing a video on the bars in the college town I work at, and I'm going through all the bars and I go in the back one, I get this huge drink and I'm like, that's one of my students. She sits in it's a big class, 400 people, and I know where she kind of sits. I'm like, hey, I know that student. So I'm going by, I say hi, it doesn't say anything. And then I go by, she goes, oh, that's my marketing professor. As I got this big old drink going back there. And so I turn right around, because I was kind of let down. She didn't say hi. And I come back, why, hello there. Yes, I'm Professor Mark Walters. It's nice to meet you. Your daughter's doing very well in the class. I'm glad she's having a good time, or I hope she enjoys it. How are you doing? And had this small talk. But I was really let down that they didn't say hi first. They only talked about me afterwards. So that was kind of sad. So there is those things. So there's a mix of emotions that professors have, a mix of feelings professors have when they do see their students in public. So professors that are out there, teachers that are out there, what are the feelings you have when you see your students out? I know some of it's the shock. I know for some students, especially for little kids, the little kids are in shock that Mrs. Robertson, she actually goes outside. No, she doesn't just live in the classroom. No, Mrs. Robertson has a life too. All right. So let us know in the comments below. And if you've had any awkward or funny experiences meeting your professors or your students while you've been out, let us know as well. And I'll say bye from here in Galway, Ireland.